Now, the purpose of this activity is really to start to get to know your target audience. Now, I know that you've already started to do this. You've started to think about who they are. You've started to think about that. But this is your opportunity to really dig in and get to know their thoughts on how to solve this challenge or meet this challenge that you've set. So, basically, what we're first going to do, what I'm going to get you to do is create a set of interview questions. Now, I can't create these for you because obviously your projects are all different, but I can give you a few principles about how to do that to get the most out of these interviews, because you're going to be interviewing the people that are in your target audience. So I'm going to send each of you in the group out to interview people in your target audience. So the first thing is keep the questions really, really broad. So for instance, if you're exploring exercise behavior and you only use the term exercise, people think of exercise as one thing. But in reality, maybe going for a walk down the street is exercise and they didn't think of it. So think about getting them, when do you get moving? When do you puff? Think really broadly so that you can get a really broad cross-section, not just a really narrow view. Make sure that you ask open-ended questions. Now, an open-ended question is a question that allows a person or gives a person kind of no choice to tell you a story. So don't ask questions that can be answered with a yes or a no. You want to ask open-ended questions so that people can tell you about it. So rather than saying, do you exercise? The answer is either yes or no. In fact, I have to be a talkative person in order to answer that without just saying yes or no. You say, tell me about the last time you got any physical activity. And then, after you've asked that question, keep asking follow-up questions. So your job is, as, I guess, a reporter almost, to explore the nature of this experience for the individual. So in this instance, you might say, when was the last time you had any physical activity? And they'd say, when I went for a walk to the pub. And you'd say, okay, how long did it take? And did you enjoy it? And why do you walk rather than drive? And really kind of digging in to to find out about their experience of exercise and how that works. So then after you, so think as you're interviewing them, what you're trying to find out is what are the things that drive them to do the behavior that you're talking about. Now, this might be turning up to a Christmas party, or it might be meeting with other people. It might be doing things to keep teenagers entertained. It doesn't matter what it is, but what are the things that are going to motivate them to engage in this project that you're doing? And then secondly, what are the things that are going to stop them? So if we go back to our exercise idea, think about what is it that gets in the way? Okay, what is it that really kind of holds them back from doing this all the time? Because often when it comes to health and well-being, there are lots of things that we know that we should do, eating healthily, exercising, not watching too much TV, all these different things, but we don't do them. So we need to understand why we don't do them. And then finally, after you've explored that and spend plenty of time exploring those, give them the opportunity to come up with ideas for your project, okay? Because you've got them right there. So if you're working, or your project is around reducing boredom for young people, and you've interviewed young people, you've found out why they get bored and what's bad about it and what's good about it, what stops them from being bored, what makes them be bored, all of that kind of thing. And then at the end you say, look, we're actually considering doing a project to reduce boredom. If you were given that project brief, what would you do? Now, each target audience is going to be different. So teenagers, sometimes it would take a little more coaxing to get them to come up with ideas, but give them the opportunity to come up with ideas, because you never know, their idea may be 10 times better than the ideas that you're just about to come up to in a section or two away. And so you can actually capture these ideas and then potentially use them later. Now, each person, what I want you to do is I want each person to find maybe 2 or 3 people. Now, I encourage you, if you're not too frightened, of finding people that you haven't spoken to before, okay? So find some people, walk down the street with a clipboard and ask people if they'd answer a couple of questions, or arrange a meeting with someone you know of in town but haven't actually worked closely with. So take your questions, but then the first thing you need to do is build rapport. Okay, a person is more likely to give you honest answers and tell you stories if they think that you like them and that there's mutual kind of respect there. So ask them how their day's gone. I don't need to tell you this, you know how to build rapport, but ask them how their day's gone and what they've been up to and what they do for fun and these kinds of things to build a relationship before you start digging into the nitty-gritty of why they may or may not have mental health problems. Okay, build relationship first. Then ask your questions and ask lots of follow-up questions. Now, I would encourage you to take notes. Now, the first time you do this, it might feel a little weird, but the thing you've got to remember is when you write down something that someone else said, The message it sends to them is that what you just said is incredibly important. Okay? So it's actually a really good tool for making clear to the person that we're not just asking you questions to take up your time. We actually want to know because this is going to influence what we do. Now, you can actually record the interviews, and that can be useful, but it does mean you have to go back through them later. If you do record the interviews, make sure you get permission to do that. But also make sure that you're really clear on what you will and won't do with those recordings. So don't get permission to record and then all of a sudden have it play on the radio without their permission. Okay? So it might just be for your benefit. Now, there are some great tools online that will transcribe those, so you don't necessarily have to write them out, but you do end up with an awful lot of words that you've got to dig through. So it's time. I know some of you are scared about talking to people that you don't know. If it absolutely petrifies you, go and have a chat with grandma or the person that you do know. But if you can, make sure that you get a few people that are outside of the social circle of your group because you want a really diverse understanding of your target audience. And that's really, really important. All right, this is actually lots of fun once you've done the first one, if you've never done it before. After you've done the first one, you go, oh my goodness, this is great. People love talking. So get stuck into it. I look forward to hearing about what you find. Thanks.